Hello, my name is Corinne Shapey, and for my fictional diagnosis project, I'm focusing on Disney Pixar's movie Inside Out and the character of Sadness. To give you a general idea of the movie, it's centered around 5 personified emotions which control the reactions of a human girl named Riley. The emotions are anger, fear, joy, disgust, and sadness, and each encompasses their namesake. As her name would suggest, the character of Sadness represents all of the negative and somber human emotions. She's constantly upset and she seems to ruminate over sad things. She thinks about them constantly, and that's really what she fixates on. And made even worse by the other characters criticizing her for making Riley upset. So in my project, I found that sadness makes a really good case for major depressive disorder, or MDD, which is a mood disorder by the DSM-V classification. Depression occurs when an individual exhibits maladaptive behavior by remaining depressed for long periods of time and for no reason in such a way that it impairs daily functioning. This disorder is persistent and causeless, and it causes the person with it to feel worthless and have diminished interest in most activities. It also has a biological basis, as we see those with MDD have far less brain activity than your average person. One symptom of MDD that sadness seems to exhibit is this fatigue or loss of energy. As you can see in the gifs on the slide, she's dragged around. She says she's too sad to walk. And really throughout the entire movie, she moves in a very lethargic way, dragging her feet as if she's very tired. Another symptom that sadness seems to exhibit are these feelings of worthlessness and guilt. As you can see from the quotes on the screen, she believes that Riley is better off without her and thinks that she makes everything worse. She says that there's something wrong with her and that she's awful and annoying, really exaggerating these small things to make them very big issues that make her feel very guilty. So although sadness is very lethargic and she fixates on these depressing things throughout the movie, one symptom that she doesn't have is a lack of concentration and decision making. In fact, she's very decisive in most of the things she does, and she's very good at problem solving, being able to analyze things critically. To treat sadness's MDD, I would suggest a combination of CBT and medication. What would be really important for her is cognitive restructuring. So when she gets into these negative and over-exaggerated irrational thinking patterns, she's able to recognize that and take a step back, realizing that it's not all her fault and that it's not nearly as bad as she thinks it is. Also, I would prescribe her SSRIs because although they take longer to work, sadness's condition doesn't appear to be dangerous, and they do have lesser side effects. So that would be appropriate for her. Another thing that would be really helpful are more supportive relationships. As I've mentioned before, the other emotion's criticism of her really doesn't help the way she behaves or her condition itself. However, with all these things, the predicted outcome is really good. If she's able to have the motivation to go through therapy through those psychoactive drugs, then retraining of thinking would be very possible and improve her outlook on life overall. The only ethical concerns here are when you're dealing with medication, you're altering brain chemistry, and she would have to be monitored very closely to make sure no negative effects occur. Overall, the portrayal of MDD in the movie is a little bit exaggerated because sadness can be very dramatic and a little bit attention-seeking in her depression, which is not really characteristic of someone with MDD. However, there are really good messages overall for kids. You see that she improves in her condition over time with more rational thinking styles, and you begin to see this interaction with other emotions, which would teach kids not to focus on something like sadness, but also not just joy or anger. Then there's also this idea of acceptance and support by the other emotions, which would be really important if children begin to interact with people who have mood disorders. Overall, the portrayal of psychological disorders in film is a really good thing because it raises awareness for these type of conditions and works to remove the stigma from individuals who have them. However, if directors do decide to include characters with mental disorders, I think they need to do so carefully and respectfully. These things can be over-dramatized and glamorized in movies, although they are very serious for many people, and so they need to go about portraying those characters in an authentic way. That concludes my presentation. Thanks and gig 'em!